2 years ago I filmed a beautiful Lazzara 87 UHV at the Cannes Yacht Show. Not only I, but also some other fellow YouTubers were deeply impressed with the vessel, and so for a while I've wanted to come and take a look at their shipyard in Antalya, Turkey. I am so glad that I did. It was an education, and I think you too will be fascinated to hear about the different way they are doing things at Lazzara. I'm going to start this video by telling you something I have never spoken about online before. Years ago, I was invited by a well-known yacht manufacturer to produce a video for them in which I explained why their yachts were, in their words, the best quality in the world. So I said to them, you need to give me some examples of what you do differently to other yards that make them such a high quality. And to cut a long story short, they couldn't tell me, so that video never happened. I asked the CEO of Lazzara, George Chirikadze, the same question, and his answer was very interesting. He said to me, I don't want to claim to be the best quality in the world, but what I can tell you is we do things very differently here at Lazzara. We aim for the highest possible quality by doing things differently. But what exactly do they do differently, and how does this affect the quality of the yacht? Well, I'll get into that in a moment, but first let me tell you about George and about the yachts that his company, Euromarine, who own the Lazzara brand, are creating. George is a highly successful entrepreneur with a degree in nuclear engineering specialising in nuclear submarines, and his success allowed him to buy yachts. Lots of yachts, actually. His rather unusual passion was buying yachts that needed work doing to them and fixing them up to the highest possible standards. I spent quite a lot of time with him on this shoot, and I don't think I have ever met anybody who is so obsessed with understanding the kind of problems that yachts experience and figuring out how to prevent them from happening. But we'll get into that too in a moment. In the Euromarine shipyard there are currently 2 yachts in construction. This stylish and voluminous power catamaran called the LPC 300 that's being built for a Lazzara client. And this UHV 100 model that's being built to sell. So not surprisingly I'll be focusing on this one. The yard will finish it for delivery in about 6 months' time. First the LPC 300 though, so called because it has 300 meters squared of floor space. This on a yacht with a length of 70 feet and a beam of 29 feet. George showed me around the yacht himself, and it was, to say the least, different. Usually a catamaran places the cabins in the hulls of the vessel, making for cramped accommodation for guests. What is cramped for guests, though, is actually very generous for crew, so the crew quarters are positioned in the 2 hulls of the vessel. The lower deck has a simply enormous full-beam master stateroom, along with 4 other well-proportioned guest staterooms. The master has an opening shell door and direct access to this amazing open beach club. I can just imagine this yacht at the dock in a boat show. I think it would absolutely steal the show. A central corridor in the cabin area leads to a spacious midships galley, with a crew mess off to the port side. Guests can either stop there for a quick coffee or proceed up the stairway to the main deck salon, which again seems impossibly large. Something I particularly liked in this area is the relatively small aft deck. I stood there with George looking down at the beach club area and imagining how enjoyable and relaxing this would be at anchor in the Bahamas. The general arrangement drawing shows a table and chairs here. I think I would quite like an aft-facing bar so that I could enjoy the view with a glass of Gavi di Gavi. If you want to enjoy more abundant deck space, you only have to go to the flybridge. This is enormous. Generous dining facilities, a large hot tub, sunbathing, all distributed across a massive decker area. Let's take a look at the yacht lying immediately in front of the LPC 300 though. the Lazzara UHV 100. The UHV stands for ultra high volume, and it really is very voluminous yacht indeed, with 2,800 square feet of interior space and 1,345 square feet of deck space, and the space is very well distributed indeed. I'll give you a quick walkthrough of the yacht before telling you how Lazzara are doing things differently and how this affects the quality of the yacht. The 100 UHV is built with a large swim platform for tender storage, but it also has a section that descends into the water for easy access to the sea. In the transom there is a beach club, but immediately we find something a little different forward of the beach club, where the crew quarters are located. By positioning the crew here, they benefit from the full beam of the yacht, so more space and also very easy access to the engine room. Look at the 4 staterooms below deck though. They also are very well proportioned, and I was genuinely impressed with the amazing quality of the cabinetry here, some of which have already been fitted. If you saw the video I filmed of the Lazzara in Cannes, you may recall that the interior decor commissioned by the owner was not to everybody's taste. This decor is extremely elegant and sophisticated, to my taste anyway. The main deck accommodates the master stateroom forward, a very spacious galley, main salon area, and a lovely aft deck with a bar. Above here we find some other large differences with other yachts too. The bow is so high that the foredeck is at upper deck level. This not only allows for a larger master stateroom with full head height below, but also for an expansive deck area big enough in fact to fit a very large hot tub on board. Remember, we have 1,345 square feet of deck space on this yacht. There is still space for a very large upper aft deck for dining under the shade of a rigid sun awning. Well, now we get to the most important part of the video. What do Lazzara do differently, and how does it affect the quality of the yacht? We're going to start here with the outside of the hull. Just about every production composite yacht manufacturer that I know paints the yachts with a substance called gel coat. Now, gel coat is extremely waterproof and it offers extra protection to the hull. You really don't want water infiltrating into the fiberglass, or worse still, getting absorbed by the foam core, because that will produce blistering or even osmosis. You certainly don't want that on your yacht. The good news is that gel coat works very, very well. The bad news is that it can go dull very quickly, and under the sun quite often you see a lot of discoloring over the hull and the superstructure, which just doesn't look very good. Lazzara don't use gel coats, and they don't because they don't need to. Composite hulls are made essentially by applying resin to fiberglass and building up layers to various thicknesses. If you ask a builder for the technical details of the layup of the hull though, they will tell you that it is a mixture of different types of resin: polyester, vinyl ester, and the king of the resins, epoxy. Epoxy is considerably more expensive than the other resins, and so is used sparingly, usually, but not at Lazzara. The entire yacht is built with epoxy resin, so water resistant that you don't even need gel coat on the yacht. You can just paint on top of it for a nicer finish that will also last a lot longer. George was rightfully proud to show me the mixer for epoxy resin and the samples that are analysed every single day to ensure that the quality is spot on. I can hardly think of a more expensive way to build a composite yacht, but I can also certainly not think of a better one. And while we're on the subject of hulls and fiberglass, here is another very big difference. Almost every composite builder that I know uses moulds to build their yachts. This is a quick and cost-effective way to work for sure, but once you have a mould, you really can't change it. Euromarine prefer to use high-precision CNC cutting machines to cut the foam core of the yacht first, support it with ribs also cut by CNC, and then lay up the hull. The result is pretty much the same, although it takes a little longer to do, but the flexibility that it offers to clients is far greater. When a client recently saw the UHV 87 but said that he wished it was 3 feet longer, the shipyard was immediately able to offer him a UHV 90 model, which is now already in the early stages of construction. Actually, it wouldn't have mattered if the client had asked for a 92.75 foot long yacht. The shipyard could have accommodated the request because they are so flexible. You just don't find that with production yacht manufacturers. But look at this too. All of the piping on board is copper nickel. Now, I've seen plastic piping on yachts, I've seen steel piping on yachts, but copper nickel piping, that's the kind of stuff that you only usually see on $100 million super yachts built in Germany or in the Netherlands. It's very expensive, but it lasts forever. Based on George's extensive experience as a yacht owner, he insists that there are no flexible hoses for the water systems whatsoever. These can break, they can leak, and let me tell you from my experience that once water starts to leak into a boat, it takes forever to figure out where it is coming from. A similar principle holds true for the hydraulic lines. Many shipyards use subcontractors for this work, but Euromarine keep everything in-house and insist that the minimum possible amount of joints be made, but rather the lines be one single unit wherever possible. It takes longer to design this, it's probably harder to install, but no joints mean no hydraulic leaks. It's different, but this is what quality yacht building is all about. Some of the quality measures that I saw on board were not new to me. I've seen before floating ceilings and floating floors. The way the work is executed at Euromarine is second to none though. Everything is so precise, so well engineered. The workers take such a pride in the way that they work. Before I come back to the yacht, I should state that good working conditions at Euromarine are obviously a big priority too. The offices have been yachtified with gorgeous cabinetry. The interior design team, the engineering department, the admin department, well, everywhere is designed to offer a working environment that is relaxing, pleasurable, and spotlessly clean. In the shipyard itself, there are 3 cleaning teams on rotation so that it is cleaned 24 hours a day. Again, this is different to any other shipyard I have visited. Back to the yacht though, and it would be remiss of me not to mention possibly the biggest difference with Lazzara Yachts. They have minimised through hulls to the greatest possible extent on the basis that every time you drill a hole in a hull, it has potential to create problems. The main through hull, of course, is the engine seawater intake and the generator seawater intake, so the Lazzara UHV series actually makes this intake a structural part of the hull at the layup stage. Now, rather than laying up the hull and then drilling large holes into it, I gave a really thorough explanation of this in the video of the UHV 87 that I produced, so I'm going to put a link to that at the end of this video. It will also give you a good overview of how beautifully designed and engineered the Lazzara engine rooms are. Everything, just everything here, from the wiring to the air conditioning ducts, from the hull layup to the exquisite cabinetry, everything is done with care and with precision. It may take a little longer, it certainly costs more money, but it's done right. And this is the final point that I want to make. If you forget everything else from this video, don't forget this. When you see those beautiful composite yachts in the marinas around the world, it's easy to think that they never go wrong. Captains and owners will tell you that that couldn't be further from the truth. I personally have seen hydraulic fluid squirting from a passerelle as the owner tried to get off of the yacht. I've been on the delivery of a yacht with the owner when a ceiling panel fell and water came gushing down. On one yacht that I visited, somehow the fuel tank had penetrated into the core of the yacht and fuel was stinking the entire vessel out. You'll never get rid of that. I've even been on a yacht where the toilets didn't flush properly. I could go on, but I think you get my point. Yachts are fantastic, but they're complex and things often go wrong. What George has done after owning many yachts himself is to say to himself, well, why do these things go wrong and what do I need to do to prevent them from happening? This has led Euromarine to build Lazzara Yachts in a very different way to other builders. They may take a little longer to build, they may cost a little bit more, but when Lazzara say that they build a quality product, they can point their finger at scores of examples to prove it.